Unmuted.
This is the Socorro Planning and Zoning Commission, December 21st, 2021. We call this meeting to order. I'm sorry. It's 5:31 p.m. Call this meeting to order.
Good afternoon. Starting item number 2, establishment of quorum. Andrew Arroyos,
Here.
Enrique Cisneros,
Here.
Ernest Gomez,
Here.
David Estrada,
Here.
Arturo Lafuente,
Here.
Julie Dominguez, Miriam Cruz. Here. We have a quorum with 6 commissioners present. I'm moving on to item number 3, notice to public, open forum. Diana, do we have anyone that would like to speak?
Not via phone.
Ms. Julie Dominguez arrived at 5:32 p.m. Moving on to item number 4, consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion to approve by Andrew Arroyos, a second by Ernest Gomez. I would like to take your votes. Andrew Arroyos,
Yes, ma'am.
Enrique Cisneros,
Yes, ma'am.
Ernest Gomez,
Yes.
David Estrada,
Yes.
Arturo Lafuente,
Yes.
Julie Dominguez,
Yes.
Miriam Cruz.
Yes.
Motion carried. Item number 5, public hearing for proposal amendment to the City of Socorro Master Plan and rezoning of Lot 2, Block 1, Valle Sereno, Track 25A, Block 15 Socorro Grant, Tracks 24B1, 25B3, Blocks 15, Socorro Grant, Track 25A1A, Block 15, Socorro Grant, Socorro, Texas, from R1, Single Family Residential, to R2, Medium Density Residential. Mr. Arroyos?
We open public hearing at 5:34. So we close public hearing at 5:34.
Chair,
Moving,
Sorry?
I'd just like to make sure that no one's here to speak on that item because we do have few public members.
Is there anybody who would like to speak?
Gilbert Limas?
Good evening. You have to raise it up, or is that good? Raise it? I know, I'm kind of tall. Good evening. My name is Gilbert Lemus. I'm currently here with my wife and my father-in-law, and we reside at 421 Buford Road. Our property extends from Buford, approximately 2 acres to the back, and we would be adjacent approximately 550 feet, 400 feet to the south, and another 150 feet to the west of the proposed zoning change. Currently, that area also on Uranaga and Celadon, when they connect to Buford, does not support the infrastructure to support moving it from a medium density zoning requirements, which require 15 houses per acre. That's approximately 5 acres worth of property back there behind my house. So you're looking at approximately that the developer can develop 15 houses per acre. So you're looking at 75 houses in that area. Taking consideration 2 cars per house from duplexes, single, triplexes to quadruple houses, you're looking at adding approximately 150 vehicles to that area. Buford already has plenty of traffic from the opening of Wind Road to Rio del Norte, from the traffic that goes from there that cuts across from Alameda to hit Loop 375 on that way. There's no sidewalks, so now you're asking for more people to walk around from Uranaga to Celadon to Buford to go to schools at Escondrias, to Championship Bulldog Park. The city just doesn't have the infrastructure for that many houses there. That's basically it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Rita Garcia?
Good afternoon. Adding to what he said, it's the infrastructure. There's not, it's a one-way coming this way, one-way going on either by Buford, going to Rio Vista to get to Escondrias. I mean, if you're not gonna build a two-way street on that road and build the, like, better sidewalks, like he said, what is the point of getting more houses if there's gonna be more people and more traffic? I mean, I don't understand. I mean, if it's for more taxes, hey, you're gonna charge us more taxes, you're gonna make it from R1 to R2, then make the streets bigger, sidewalks. It doesn't make sense. And I'm representing the residential area from Tutan Carreta, which is Moon Road. It's already hard to get from Moon Road to Alameda, now you're adding more people? Seriously? I don't understand. I really don't. And we're not even sure if this is like gonna be a residential area, is this apartments? Because then if we're talking about apartments, is there more than 50 people, 100 people there? Because it's a big lot. There's 100 more cars. There's more traffic. You have to be clear. And I oppose this. Or we oppose it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Anyone else who would like to speak on the matter? Mr. Serafin?
Just wanted to express my feelings pretty much like people before
I'm
me.
sorry, can you speak into the microphone, please? And state your name,
Yeah,
please.
pretty much the same sentiments as these people before me. It seems that here in Socorro, we have a tendency to do the old carriage before the horse. We're concentrating so many houses, so much with traffic, let's say, in such a small area. Someone has this information, I don't have it with me right now, but if people stop and consider how many schools are in this immediate area, right around Socorro, how many subdivisions have sprouted out in the last 10 years, how many apartment complexes have been built within the last 5 years. Then think about how many streets in Socorro have been widened, how much lighting has been improved. You can't solve these issues placing speed bumps and four-way stops every 100 yards. I grew up in this little area in question that used to belong to my grandma. Grandma owned all that parcel of land, which I thought was about 6, 7 acres, something like that back then. In the mornings, trying to get to, I have to act like a flagman, go out towards Buford and make sure my wife is safe pulling out of the driveway. And that's just me, one person, because of the traffic in this small area. I just hope someone considers these things before they go on to planning other things that affect this area so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak on the matter? Moving on to item number 6.
So let me close public hearing at 5:42.
Moving on to item number 6, consider and take action on the proposed amendment to the City of Socorro Master Plan and rezoning of Lot 2, Block 1, Valle Sereno, Track 25A, Block 15, Socorro Grant, Track 24B1, 25B3, Block 15, Socorro Grant, Track 25A1A, Block 15, Socorro Grant, Socorro, Texas, from R1 Single Family Residential to R2 Medium Density Residential. Carlos?
Yes, thank you, Yadira. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Carlos Gainar with the Planning and Zoning Department. So as you heard from some of the residents, this is a tricky unusual case that's before you, so I'm going to walk you through the different aspects of the case. There's the rezoning, and then there's the two variances. So I want to just spend some time explaining a little bit of what the applicant is requesting, and then the way that planning staff is reviewing this application. First, next slide, please. So we'll, as we do, we'll give you the background information. So currently, the zoning district is R1. So just to be clear, the developer, the owner, the property owners can develop if they wanted to today. They are requesting to go from R1 to R2. The properties are currently vacant. The future land use map does have this as residential. The proposed land use, which I want to clarify for the residents here, is single-family housing, and that's part of the condition that we're going to ask you to consider as part of your vote. So the gentleman that spoke, the officer that spoke first, he is correct. The density on an R2 would allow 15 units per acre, but that is not the case here. So just want to make sure that that's clear for the residents as well. The applicant is not requesting apartments. They're not requesting duplexes. They're not requesting triplexes. They're requesting the R2 because it is a little bit of a weird lot, right? It's not a perfect square, 10,000 square foot lots, and so that's why they're asking for the R2 for the variances as well for the lot dimensions. Again, I'll walk you through all those different aspects of the case. And then again, just to reiterate, they are requesting R2, so it's going from R1, just to be clear, they can develop today, to R2. And then, as I mentioned, the staff is recommending approval. However, we want to make sure that there are two conditions. If you decide to vote on this, that there are two conditions as part of your vote. One, that you limit it to single-family residential. So if you decide to go to R2, again, for the residents that are here, they won't be allowed to do apartments. They won't be allowed to do duplexes. It will be a single-family residential on each lot. That's the first condition. And then the second one is that the front setback, so they're asking for a variance on the front setback from 20 feet to 10 feet. And I'll walk you through it again, but what we're requesting is that the condition is that if you do allow the variance, that you do allow the 10-foot setback, but you have a 20-foot driveway, right? And again, I'll walk you through that just to make sure that there's some clarity on what they're requesting. And with that, I'll start with the case. So the zoning district right now, the location map. I have the wrong map. So the location is, you can see it here. It's by Buford. It's by Bulldog Park. It is an infill lot. It is, to be clear, it is surrounded by single-family homes. It's in the middle of a residential area, but currently it's vacant. Currently there's debris back there. There's tires. There's trash. But this is not the location map. This is obviously the 200 feet that we did announce to the public. Next slide. The zoning map shows it as R1, single-family residential. All the, it is. There are some R2s scattered around the area, but again, it's not spot zoning because it's still single-family homes, right? It's still residential land use. You're not going from single-family homes to commercial. So again, just to make sure that the zoning is in keeping with the character of the neighborhood, single-family residential. Here's just some, next slide, please. These are just some property images. It's hard to get to the lot, but just wanted to make sure that we showed you some of the images. It's not as dense as you would think, but again, there is 4.5 acres of land that is behind these homes. Next slide. Just to show you the aerial. Next slide. And this is the map that you, again, we did notify residents within 200 feet. Obviously, the letters work because you do have some residents here stating their opinion. And then the next slide. Here's the general plan. And it's part of your backup. But again, just want to make sure that we state the facts. The general plan shows 17 lots and 1 pond. We'll need to subdivide the platting process. So right now, some of the lots are in tract form. So when they do, if you decide to move this one forward, they will have, before they could develop, they'll have to come back to you with a preliminary plat and a final plat. That is also just to, I know there was a question about the traffic, that is when you would require the TIA. And so there's no TIA as part of the zoning application, right? The TIA comes at the platting stage. So you'll have another bite at the apple with this case. If you decide to approve it, you will have a chance to look at the plat, subdivision plat when it comes back to you. And again, I mean, we all recognize that it is an infill lot. There are some odd shapes of parcels. It's not a perfect square. If there was a perfect square and they were asking for the variance, we would probably recommend denial, but we recognize that they can develop now, and so that they need some little bit of flexibility on some of the dimensional standards. And then if you do it does meet the development standards of about 6,000 square feet for the R2. And then if you look at the density, we're looking at about 3.7 units per the acre. Again, the gentleman was correct. I know it sort of sparked my ear when he said 15 units to the acre. He is correct. The code allows that, but that is not the case here. They are asking for single-family homes, so just want to make sure that that's clear for them as well. So the density is about 3.7 units to the acre, okay? Next slide, just another view of the general plan that they're proposing. And then the next slide, I'm going to walk you a little bit through the variances. And so what's happening here is that the code requires 20 feet. What the applicant is requesting is a 10-foot setback, right? Again, because the lots aren't a perfect dimensional standard. So what we're saying with the condition is that this is a picture of a home in Hidden Valley Estates, right? And it looks like every other home in every other subdivision in the United States, in El Paso and Socorro. And so the reason that you have a 20-foot setback in an R2 or a 25-foot setback in an R1 is because you don't want the car to be encroaching on the sidewalk, right? A car is typically 18 to 20 feet, right? You're giving the car the dimensions to be able to park on the driveway, and so the sidewalk is free and clear. If you allowed the 10-foot setback, like they're requesting, without the 20-foot garage or the driveway, then you will have cars encroaching onto the sidewalk, and that's something that we don't want to happen. And so that's part of the condition that we're saying is allow the 10-foot setback, but recess the garage a little bit, right? So that, again, the cars aren't encroaching on the sidewalk. So this is just an example of what a typical single-family home looks like without any variances, without any setback variances requested. Here's just next slide. So here's just to give you an idea of what this looks like. It's just an illustration, right? So if you look at that number, the letter C, right, that is, for illustrative purposes, it's not to scale, that is about a 10-foot setback, right? So we're saying allow the 10-foot setback, and it's actually a great character for the neighborhood because it gives you the front porch. It allows people to be a little bit closer to the sidewalk. It allows people to interact a little bit more with their neighbors. And then the letter F is the garage, right? So 10-foot setback on the front, 20-foot setback on the driveway, which is, again, not typical for Socorro, not typical for subdivisions, but given the way that the land is laid out, we would want you to consider the recommendation of the condition when it comes to the setbacks. Next slide. This is just an example that we got off the internet, right? So again, this is what a house could look like. You have a very short setback to the front, and you have the driveway in the back, or to the side, but recessed. So again, you leave the sidewalk free and clear. There's no issues with the driveway. There's no issues with people parking on the sidewalk. And again, I think because of the way that the lots are laid out, it gives you, and I've spoken with the applicant, it gives you a little bit of a different character. It gives you a little bit of a different feel for the neighborhood, unlike some of the neighborhoods that we've seen come through in the past several years. Next slide, and then just, not to belabor the point, this is an area of Kern Place in El Paso. The circles show you what we're talking about in real life. What I showed you was an illustration. Next slide. And so as an example, okay, I'm not saying that this is what the homes are going to look like, but you have an example where you have the driveway, a long driveway, and the homes in the front of the homes a little bit closer to the street. So it accentuates the character of the home. It allows the developer to be really creative with their design of the residence, and it allows us to sort of look at a different neighborhood that we're not used to seeing in Socorro as an example for other infill lots that other developers may want to develop in the future. Next slide. And then this is taken strictly from the City of El Paso's Muni Code. Their R4, which is similar to RR2, has the language written in there. So the circle, you see the R4 zoning district. The column that I've highlighted is the setbacks, the front setbacks, and the City of El Paso's language is exactly what we're asking you to consider. So it allows a 10-foot setback, except that a 20-foot driveway must be provided. So just to give you a little bit of context and a little bit of information for surrounding communities of what is allowed. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, one, why are we always giving variances? How does it benefit the city?
What's the question, sir?
The variances.
Sure.
Why are we always giving variances when you're not supposed to give them? How does the city benefit by doing that?
Yes, sir.
I can understand the builder benefiting
Mhm.
from it, but not the city of Socorro. Two, do the people that came up here to speak earlier, do they know about the 13, 14 houses, 15 houses instead of the 13, 14 per acre? Or do they know about that?
Are you ready for me to answer the question?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's just some of the questions that I
Yeah,
do have.
Mr. Gomez, so number one, the variance is allowed by code, right? The applicant has a right to ask for variances. So variances are put in place because we recognize, again, that some lots are unique, right? So if this, again, I'm straight up, for you to consider, if this was a perfect squared lot, 10,000 square feet, 25 feet by 100 feet, or 40 feet by 100 feet, we would not recommend the variance, right? Why
Well,
would they need?
The last subdivisions that we did, it was 60% variance on all the lots.
Yes, sir.
Were they not square? Or
I
were they not?
I was not,
That's what I'm saying, is you keep giving variances to the same people all the time, the
But-
same builders.
Mi-
Now, wait a minute.
Yes, sir.
They can do a lot less houses and use that property.
Sure.
And not mess up everything and then not change everything to the city of El Paso. I don't live in El Paso.
Yes, sir.
I wanna stay here in Socorro.
Mr. Gomez, I recognize that, but just to be fair, I was not here when those variances that you're speaking of were given, so I cannot speak to that point.
I'm sure you were, for all those properties down over here where the subdivision was 60%. 60%, they wanted 60% of the property.
Yeah, that's right, but again, those are special circumstances, sir, in that the lots are different, right? So just to answer your question, the code allows the variances for when things like this are when the lots are a little bit unique. The second question, reiterate the second question for me, please.
I'm just asking you, why are we giving variances? And not just here, not just to this one, but the other ones over there. Two,
Yeah.
why can't they make them a little bigger lots, less houses? And why don't they explain this to the people that live around there?
That's right, the question was of if people
It's a
knew.
good idea to get
yeah.
along with the neighbors, so it might.
So, Mr. Gomez, to be fair, sir, this is why they are here. This is why you have a public meeting. So
Yes, but
I-
you're trying to be fair to one part of the equation here. The other part, people who already live there. I mean, you have to kind of respect what they have to say.
I 100% agree with you, Mr. Gomez,
But
but
why did you approve this then? Why are you recommending approval?
we're not approving it, you're approving it.
No, you're recommending approval.
Because I just walked you through the logical, you don't have to agree with me, right? You have every right.
Well, that's correct, and I don't agree with you.
Okay,
but
that's fair.
okay.
That's fair. But to be fair to your comment that why didn't we address the residents, we sent a letter, they are here, this is a public conversation, they are allowed to view the information. I'm happy to meet with whomever wants to meet after the meeting, but I think it's unfair for you to say that we did not provide the information to the app. This is why it's a public meeting. This is why we're not approving it behind closed doors, sir. And so you, as a commission, don't have to approve it. That's your right. I am doing my job of presenting to you what I feel are good examples of good planning, and working with the applicant, and again, trying to be fair to the residents around. Just to, final point, the applicant can develop today, right? So that's a fact. And so if we go and say, hey, applicant, we know that you could develop it, but hey, guess what? They want the R2. I get it, you want the R2. However, can you make it a little bit better? Can you work with the city to get a different product, to get a little different feel? That's why we're having this conversation. That's what the applicant has agreed to. That's why we're also putting the conditions, right? To make sure that it's safe, that it's where it needs to be. Anyhow, I hope that answered your question, sir.
Okay. Thank you. I have several questions. I'll go one by one. Is the applicant here?
The applicant is here, yes, ma'am.
Mr. Escobar, I didn't see your name on the backup. So I have a question, Mr. Gallinato, because you said that some of the information or all the information was provided to the public, but even some of the stuff that you provided today to us wasn't in our own backup. And so that's a little concerning to me, because I would have loved to review some of that stuff before, being sprung on it today. And one of the concerns I guess this is more of a comment before a question. One of the concerns is that it seems that you went out of your way to come out, to try and give us an idea of what we could expect, but that's kind of building a false narrative or a false view, because it's not necessarily something that Mr. Escobar is gonna be held, to do. That's not the design, that's not something, it looked nice, what you showed us today looked nice, but we don't know for a fact that that's exactly what he's gonna do. We also don't know for a fact that 17 homes, what is it called? Well, it just says plan, but this plan that's attached to the backup is exactly what he's gonna stick to. So let me ask you a few questions. If they were to build homes today, since it is an R1, how many would they be able to build? What's the maximum?
How many units?
Yeah.
19.5. And
Nine-
they are asking for 17.
Okay, but that doesn't mean that they could, okay, they could build 19 as they're built right now, as they're zoned right now.
Given the dimensions of the R1 at 10,000 square foot per
Okay.
lot, yes, ma'am.
And if we were to agree to an R2 and hold them to the variance, that they only be allowed to build single-family homes, how many lots would they be able to build then?
17.17, they're 17, ma'am.
That's the maximum that they could build? I know that's what they're planning on
So
doing,
the
but what's the?
question is if they were to do the R2 and not showing it the way that they're showing it now,
Right, and
then
it
the
was,
math would be, maybe plus or minus 2 lots from the 17. It's not a huge deviation, because if you look at what they're proposing, the lots go from anywhere from 6,300 square feet all the way to 12,000 square feet.
okay, and that brings up my other question. So are they requesting a variance for every single lot or just specific ones?
So they are requesting the variance for every single lot, but according to the developer, they're not gonna need it for every single lot. And so, it's just easier to manage from our perspective if it's straight up a board variance than trying to guess when it comes down to permitting. Hey, this one doesn't have it, this one does not have it. But my understanding from the applicant is they don't intend to use it for every single lot. But it's just easier to sort of identify all 17 right now than trying to guess which lot might need the variance and which might not.
I guess it also would be easier to just include that there's a limit to maybe 3 or 4, whatever they want, number they want to do, right? That they could only have a variance for 4 lots? I mean, that seems simple as well to me.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So you also mentioned the fact that it could be an issue that the that the car would be encroaching onto the sidewalk, which, let me tell you, that's already an issue with so many houses that people are not following. Obviously, that's against the law to be blocking the sidewalk, and so many houses already do it. So the fact that they would have a longer driveway, it almost seems like they might have more reason to just fill it up with all the cars that they usually would have on the side of the house, given, without knowing dimensions of everyone's vehicle, obviously. I could potentially see where that sidewalk is going to be inaccessible, especially being in such an enclosed area. Anyway, my question is, why is that an issue here and not in other lots? Because if it was an issue in other lots, then we wouldn't require this as part of our code, right?
I don't understand the question,
Okay.
ma'am.
So you said that there might be an issue with the cars encroaching onto the sidewalk unless you give this variance.
Unless you do the 20 feet variance.
Right.
So just to reiterate and just to clarify, the difference that I'm making is that if, say for example, the condition that I'm asking you to consider, you take that away, and then you just do a straight up 10 feet setback, then the driveway will be 10 feet. And then you're gonna have the issue of the cars encroaching onto the sidewalk. So what we're saying is allow the 10 feet on the house, but the driveway 20 feet, so that you mitigate the issue that you're stating.
Okay, so you're not saying that it's an issue with our code, you're saying that it would be an issue if you did it for the whole lot. And so you want to just move back the variance on the ¿cómo se llama? The driveway. Do we know, in fact, if they're actually going to be building the driveway on the side of the house?
So just to your question, it's not an issue with the code. That I want to clarify that.
No, I know,
The code
that's
is
what
fine.
Right.
It's an issue for this circumstance of the lots because, again, they're a little bit different lots, right? They're odd shapely.
I mean, there's really
Diff-
only one or two that look odd-shaped to me.
Okay,
I mean, the rest literally look like, I mean, just both normal to me. I don't know.
Okay.
There's one at the top of the, that's close to Carreta Lane. Is that a lot or is that a house? Is that gonna be a passage?
Yeah, that's a driveway. That's exactly right. You need 2 points of access on a subdivision.
So it is gonna be a point of access?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The one on the cul-de-sac?
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Mr. Aguilar, good afternoon. Just to clarify, the developer is gonna develop whether it's approved today or not. So,
Well, that's a question for the developer. I don't know that to be true, but what I am saying is that if anyone wanted to develop, they could today. They are entitled to develop. It's not agricultural land. It's zoned for residential. Correct.
Well, and I guess to that point, the way that they would have to build under an R1 is very different from what they would have to build from an R2, and they wouldn't be getting the variances that they're requesting today. So, yes, they could build, but it's gonna look it would be a totally different character, right? And requirements.
It will, I mean, Ms. Cruz, I think from the density perspective, it would be almost the same. Again, they would be allowed 19. They're asking for 17, plus or minus, right? I said 1 or 2 lots. I can't do the math in my head, dividing the number of acres by square feet by the dimensions of the lot. But, the houses, I think, would look probably the same, maybe a little bit different, again, because you don't have the garage in the front, right?
Okay, so I guess can we ask the applicant then?
Sure.
Mr. Escobar, my question to you is, if it's gonna be about the same amount of lots and it's gonna potentially look the same,
Do me a favor, my hearing aid won't come until the 29th.
I'll scream at you, that's
So if you
okay.
can speak up and he'll help me.
That's all right, I'll scream at you, Mr.
But
Escobar.
if you give me a chance, can I explain the project to you before, and maybe that clarifies a bunch of.
I actually would like an answer to my question first before you
Okay.
explain.
if I
So,
can hear.
so the question is, if you could build the same amount of lots in an R1 or an R2, and at least based on Mr. Gallinar, it would look similar, then why request the different zoning and the variances?
The answer is very simple, ma'am, because this is such a small property.
Can you please speak into the microphone?
This is such a small property and such an odd property that when you put the street in, those 10,000 square foot lots will be odd. And then the houses have to be bigger because of the cost. The fewer the lots, the higher the cost. It's the same development, okay? So it would be more difficult to build bigger houses on these, and I want to say weird or strange lots, okay? And then you wouldn't have the ponding. And I can do the math in my head. When you have a perfect subdivision, you can get 5 lots minimum per acre. So that means if this was perfect, we could get 22 lots. Okay? We're not asking, and let me clarify this, we're not asking for 17 because there's an existing lot on Carreta. Okay? There's only 16 additional lots that are going to be built, 16 additional homes. And now if I can tell you how this came about. This property is offered to us. We go see it. It's full of weeds, it's on a dead end, there's no secondary exit. So by itself, the property cannot be developed because by code, you need a secondary exit. When the lot on Carreta, which is here marked as lot 11, became available, we went and bought it in order to put an emergency exit, only to be used in case of fire, okay? for the fire department or for the people to exit the neighborhood, okay? We came to the city and we said, you have a dead piece. You have a piece that's very odd, very difficult to build, but we have the intent to build a very nice project. On this one, different to what we normally do and develop and sell the lots, we're gonna go ahead and build the homes. So what we wanted to do that is not done in Socorro is we're gonna do a custom home for every lot. So under the agreement and the conversations we have, all the houses are gonna have front porches, okay? So it's gonna be like a really nice semi-private neighborhood, if you wanna call it that, where every house is gonna have a porch, and that's why the setbacks are being requested, because the porches add to the house. That's why he's requesting that the garages be in the back so the cars are not obstructing the sidewalks. Our intent is for all these houses to be clay tile, porches, and all in the same type of architecture. There won't be a hodgepodge of houses. We're going to build these houses. We're not gonna sell the lots, okay? There's a ponding area. Right now, if you get a big rain, I don't know where the water goes to the neighbors or whatever. This is now gonna be controlled water, okay? There's gonna be rock wall all around this subdivision. It will have the safety precautions. It will have curbs, sidewalks, lighting, everything that the city wants. If you do not approve this, I will tell you this straight up. I don't have a reason to buy this property. It can stay there, and it can be abandoned, and you know the property, full of weeds, full of trash, and I'm not lying. So here, we're trying to do something good for the city, but it has to be economically viable. So we're building 16 new houses. It's gonna be 17, but one's already existing. We can build it tomorrow, and I have to build it, because if you say no, I did buy that lot. There used to be a mobile home there. It got taken out. So I'll go build a house, sell it, and I'm on my way. No problems. But you have infill. When you have infill, you have problems, because the lots, look at it. It's weird. We did the best we could. We tried the biggest lots. Some of these houses will be 1 story, some of them will be 2 stories, some of them will be 4 bedrooms, and some might be 2 bedrooms if somebody requests that. Because there's empty nesters that just want a 2-bedroom house that can't find one. So, to us, this is actually gonna be a very beautiful project that is a fun project to build. Because it's custom homes, porches, real nice neighborhood, well-designed, and I'm sorry, but you don't have that right now in that area. They lack sidewalks, they lack curbs, they lack lighting. So maybe this is the catalyzer to bring everything in. And we're not gonna build 71 houses or apartments or anything else. We're gonna build 17 beautiful homes that will enhance the neighborhood. Okay? And I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna build the homes. We're not selling these lots. Okay? So I don't know what else I can answer.
Mr. Escobar, I do have a follow-up. So if you are saying that you would only build 17 and they're all gonna have front porches, is that something that you would be willing to have in the conditions?
She's asking about the density, if you would just limit it to the 17 homes.
Yes.
As part of a condition?
Is what?
As part of a condition?
Yes, we already brought a drawing. We didn't have to do
Okay,
this.
I know you didn't have to do it, but Mr.
Yes,
Escobar,
put it-
other
put it-
times
put it as a
you've made
condition.
plans and you didn't follow
Put it
through.
as a condition, 17 homes, no more.
Mr. Gallinaro, I do have another question. The variance is from the backyard to the front, right? Just as a point of clarification, I don't know if you can show that again on the, we're asking for variance from the backyard to the garage.
No, you're asking for a variance from both, there's 2 variances. One from the front, both the front and the back require 20 feet.
Uh-huh.
They're asking for 10 feet allowed in the front, 15 in the back.
And I can explain that. house is 10 and 10, but it's gonna have 35 or 40 feet on the side with a nice big yard, and then the other house, because the lots are weird. But it won't be encroaching into anybody's backyard. Those houses will probably all be one story. So there'll be yards. You'll see, you know, yards, you'll see it'll be a really nice place if we can do it. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you.
How do you foresee the, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
how do you foresee the traffic?
How do you foresee the traffic?
Well, my point is this, Socorro has traffic issues all over the place. But if you don't create your tax base and you don't have the population, you won't attract the dollars from the Department of Transportation to fix it. So everything is, unfortunately, is the cart before the horse or the horse before the cart. You have to grow and you're gonna have growing pains. This is only 17 homes. I've driven that area. I don't live there, so I can't attest to certain hours, but I don't see that it's very, very heavy congestion. But we'll have a TIA for us. So it's only, like I said, it's gonna be 17 homes. There'll be some 3 bedrooms, there'll be some 2 bedrooms. Because we actually believe that there is a market for a new 2-bedroom home in Socorro. Because there's a lot of people that their kids have gone away to study and they don't wanna live the area. They don't wanna leave the area, but they've or undergrown their houses, if that's the correct term. So they wanna stay. They wanna have their nice master bedroom with a visitor's quarters. And that's it. So there's some lots here that will apply to that. And if you have a nice porch, then like the old days, and I had one when we were growing up, and we'd hang out there all the time because there were no phones and no internet, no nothing. So you hang out on the porch and you say hi to your neighbors, and people walk by, and we actually think this is a really nice, you know, viable project for that property, specifically for that property.
But, I'd like to say this is, yeah, a very unique property, and I think it makes sense on the way it's drawn up. And it's only 17 lots, and if that's, I mean, I don't see any problem with it. It's got the emergency services through the back or whatnot, right? It's got like an easement in the back for accessibility.
I lost you.
Yes, sir. The easement in the back. Yes, sir. So again, when they come in for the not the replat, when they come in for the plat, they're gonna have to show 2 points of access.
Yes.
And so again, and to maybe help Ms. Cruz with some of her concerns, what the developer is presenting is what they have told us that they're gonna do. She's 100% correct. They could turn around and do something else. But if you, and the applicant's okay, that's why we also put the conditions in there to limit it to single-family home. The density, again, the density is what it is, right? I mean, because of the size of the lot. So you're not gonna get 15 units to the acre, you're not gonna get a duplex, you're not gonna get a triplex. And so again, just to reiterate, folks, when I don't know, but I mean, maybe you all disagree, but I think we're in at least my staff and I are in the business of being of service to people. And so when Mr. Escobar or whomever, I don't care who it is, it doesn't have to be him, comes and says, hey, we want to help us with how you guys see how we could develop our land, that's what we do. And so we sat down with him and said, hey, listen, if you want to do this, we're going to ask for that. We're going to ask for the conditions. We're going to ask for the PNC to consider it. That's really what it is, folks. I mean, again, that's our perspective when we bring these cases to you.
I like to,
There'll be no cars going to Carreta. They're gonna come out Urulaga, and it's half a block to the main street. So, I mean, it won't impact the neighborhood that much, because we're not driving around, we're driving straight out from the neighborhood.
Yes, is there a variances, all the variances are subject to the ordinance of Socorro? And if there is a variance in a load that is not according with the ordinance of Socorro, always shall be reviewed or verified by the judicial system before be approved. So at this time, I guess we cannot approve that item.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lafuente, I don't understand the question, sir.
Okay, all the variances in a lot should be reviewed by the judicial system before be approved. Because there is a change on the ordinances of the city of Socorro. If the ordinances did not allow all those variances, they need to be approved by the judicial system before.
So, Mr. Lafuente, again, just to be clear, we're not asking you to change the code. The code's still gonna stay the same, right? So the 20 feet, developer that comes in tomorrow still has to do the 20 feet in an R2. We're not asking you to change that. I think your question is, so to answer your question, sir, you are that judicial system. You are that body that allows developers to ask for the variance. So if let's just, as another example, say Mr. Escobar or whomever else comes in tomorrow with building permits, and it doesn't meet the setbacks. I can't approve it. I can't say, yes, ándale, está bien.
Okay.
I can't do that. That's why it is a public hearing, that's why it comes to you, and then it goes to city council. So the code does allow for people to ask for variances, they do. The body that approves the variances are the P&Z and the city council.
Based on the ordinance of the city of Socorro, but those ordinances are also based on the state.
Yes, that's
They do.
correct. Those ordinances are based on the local government code. Yes, sir.
Yes. And so before we approve it, they need to be verified by the loyal system. So
He's asking if there's a judicial system that has to review the variances.
yes.
Marwan Bhatti. I think Mr. Galinar actually stated it correctly. So you have the ordinances. If somebody requests a variance, it goes to Planning and Zoning Commission, or it can go to the Board of Adjustments. Once you make a decision, it's then recommended to City Council. They make the final decision. Things do not usually go to court on these kind of things. Limited circumstances, if an applicant feels like they weren't given due process or something like that, they can bring a lawsuit later to challenge it. But usually, even courts, they kind of defer actually to what the city did at the city level to interpret its ordinances. Sometimes if there's interested groups, they can also protest an ordinance and bring it in court. But yeah, the process of the variance, it doesn't need judicial approval. It needs approval by Planning and Zoning Commission, which is you guys. And you have the right to agree with it or disagree with it. But even then, it's a recommendation that from here will go to City Council, who will have the final approval. If that helps answer the question.
Yes, those variances are like reducing the setbacks, right?
Right.
So once we reduce the setbacks, we are not obeying on the ordinance by the Socorro City and by the state law.
Right, yeah, it's considered an exception to the ordinances, but the City of Socorro municipal code allows Planning and Zoning and Board of Adjustments to make a variance if somebody requests it. So it's an allowable item
Okay.
if it's approved.
Okay, if that is in our behalf, I think the people that is around living there, they wanna notice that there's no enough space to allow people around the house living in those setbacks that are in the ordinance in the city of Socorro. So,
I think everything, they're gonna be in compliance with everything. Whether it's, if it's allowed or whatnot, they are still gonna be in compliance. They're not changing any.
yes, they changing the setback.
Well,
Well, yeah.
yeah, I
but
mean,
the-
that's the very
amount.
definition of a variance, is that they're not gonna comply. That's what they're asking for an exception.
Right. Yeah, so if they get if it gets approved or whatnot, and they get those variances, they'll be in compliance.
If
That's
they're
why they're
approved.
asking for that zone change. So
Sure.
If it gets approved, then I think they'll be within compliance.
I'd like to make a motion because there was members of the public that were making gestures while Mr. Escobar was talking. And so I'd like to make a motion to allow them to speak. I don't think that they checked off what items they wanted to talk on. And so I'd like to let the members of the public be able to comment on this item after they've had a chance to review the information as it's been presented and so that they can make their comments be known publicly, because we were, well, I don't know if anyone else is paying attention to their gestures, but they were making, gestures with their bodies, body gestures to indicate that some of the information that Mr. Escobar was stating was maybe not accurate.
I second.
Just 1 second, we gotta vote.
That was me, sorry. Mr. Escobar?
No, one
sorry.
second, we gotta
Um,
vote on letting you speak. Just give us a second.
Do I have a motion?
Yes, I made the motion.
Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a motion to approve by David Estrada. And I apologize. I have a motion made to approve by Marion Cruz, second by David Estrada.
I'm sorry, to approve to allow the members to speak, just to be clear.
It would be to open public forum again.
Yes.
So can I open the public?
Yeah, I'll
yeah,
accept
we have
a
to-
motion to reopen public hearing on this item.
I'll amend my motion to what Mr. Berry just said. I'll say it again. A motion to open public forum.
Motion to open public forum. Made by Marion Cruz.
I second.
Second by David Estrada. Andrew Arroyo,
Yes.
Enrique Cisneros,
Yes, ma'am.
Ernesto Gomez,
Yes.
David Estrada,
Yes.
Arturo Lafuente,
Yes.
Julie Dominguez,
Yes.
Miriam Cruz.
Yes.
Motion carried. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Escobedo,
Go ahead.
he bought that property. Sure. They bought that property.
I still can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm having a bad ear day.
Okay. Mr. Escobedo bought this property. This property has been my father's property for over 100 and some years. When they first bought it, they came onto our property without even telling us who they were, basically saying we're the new owners. I went out there and told him, you don't own our property. He's saying that there's weeds and everything on our property. We own this back acre. It's clean. It might not be fenced in. We haven't had it fenced in. Like I said, my father's 86 years old. We're the ones who are mostly impacted. We've been neighbors with the Serafines. I'm 50 years old. We've never had issues with them. Now they're coming in and saying, we're going to make your neighborhood beautiful. You clearly do not know where we live. No, you said you're going to improve our neighborhood.
Ma'am, if you could address the commission.
Well, he was addressing us. I would just like to address him on that issue. We have a very nice neighborhood. We don't have issues with our neighbors. We don't bother anybody. We take care of our own. Now, he's coming in here saying he's going to improve it. We have no issue back there. It's fine, but he wants to add 17 homes back there. When you come out to Urudanga, there's no road there. It's a cul-de-sac that has 4 homes already. There's no road. So how is he going to benefit that? I don't know how this infrastructure is going to help anybody, but you're going to add 17 new homes to this? But he has an exit coming out to Careta, where there's this tiny little roadway, but basically not even a road, coming out to 2 new homes that have been there, again, 50 years, very familiar with the area. Behind us, on Haynes, a new mobile home came in. These individuals came in, they moved all of their dirt and just left it back there behind us. Again, code enforcement didn't do anything about that. All this stuff is happening back there, but who do you complain to? Nothing gets done, but you all give permits and they come out and they just move stuff. So yes, we're a little frustrated. He cannot build 17 homes back there. Who's gonna hold him accountable?
Thank you for,
Thank you.
do I have a motion?
Anybody else?
I'm sorry, could put the volume a little higher? I don't know why I'm having issues today.
I'm Rita Garcia. We live by 210 Carrera Lane. That, whatever exit he's gonna do there, that's tiny. I don't know if anybody's gone there to see that exit. Not only that, we're already having sinkholes on that street. And we already complained to planning zone and nobody's done anything. And it's been, for, like she said, for a while now. And you wanna make 17 houses there and exit there? Have you gone seen the street? I mean, come on. It's like, I feel like there's people that have been living there 50 years, maybe longer. I know my parents have been there for 40 years now. I've just come back and I see the same thing. Nothing has changed. And I don't know how you are making, I don't know what the ordinances here in the city are. Maybe we need to look as citizens and see what's going on, because I don't think there's plenty of information going on. We didn't know that they were gonna build that 17-home structure until we got this in the mail. And it's not only me. I'm talking about the whole neighborhood in 210 Carreta, that lane, 210, that Carreta lane. I came here because I'm the only one that speaks Spanish. I have to tell them my neighbors what's going on because they don't know. And I don't know what they were saying that they did let us know. And to me, you're building 17 homes with that exit there, which is a small street. I mean, I do understand that, yes, you want to improve the city of Socorro because, I mean, that's how a city grows, but you have to go out there and see what the area looks like before you start selling, giving ordinances and rating R1 residential areas and stuff like that. I mean, that's your job. And I'm just like very disappointed. I'm sorry, I am. I cannot believe it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just so the public knows, you are able to address this in Spanish, okay? Nomás quiero que el público sepa que sí nos pueden dirigir la palabra en español. La mayoría de nosotros entendemos y los que no podemos traducir, okay? Please let your neighbors know. No entiendo nada, ¿verdad? Una de las cosas que se puede pedir antes de una junta es que le den un intérprete, un traductor. No sé si aquí está la información, parece que no, pero por lo menos para la cita de la oh my God, City Council, de la
Cabildo.
¿de qué?
Cabildo.
¿Del Cabildo?
Cabildo de la ciudad.
Okay. Para los representantes de Socorro, que ellos, después de aquí, llega este tema con ellos, cuando llegue a esa junta, sí puede pedir un intérprete, ¿sí? Para que entienda todo y también si quiere hablar en español y que se le interprete en inglés para que todo el mundo le pueda atender. Pero si gusta dirigirnos la palabra ahora en español, con más gusto. No, la verdad es que creo que todos hablamos español, señora.
Todos hablamos.
Todos entendemos español. I don't want to speak on anyone's behalf, but I think we all do.
¿Sí nos da su nombre, por favor?
Soy María Guadalupe Romero de García y vivo en la Carreta 210. Ella es mi hija. Yo soy la propietaria de mi esposo. Mi esposo no vino porque le dio una embolia y le dio aparte una sepsis, enfermedad de la sangre. Por eso no vino el pobrecito de mi marido. Pero nosotros tenemos ahí 46 años viviendo en ese lugar y siempre ha estado muy tranquilo. Ahora, esa callecita, no creo que para tantos casas que dicen que quieren hacer, no es suficiente esa calle. Está muy chiquita, digo, no está. Y luego de repente se aloca la raza y aceleran, ¿no? Hemos vivido muy tranquilos, pero con todo eso, no creo que nos vaya a ayudar a nada, señor. También traemos banquetas, no tenemos nada. Ahí van y hacen construcciones, ya sea la del AT&T, el gas, el agua, dejan todo ahí, ya hasta se agujeró ahí. Y tengo 3 años hablando para que vayan y echen tierra en las orillas, y hasta se hicieron más hoyos. Pagan unos taxes y no tenemos un servicio en nada, es lo malo. Habla uno, parece que habla uno a la pared y no nos contesta nadie, no nos hacen servicio, no nos hacen caso de nada. Ya está uno cansado de que esto y esto y esto, y ahora falta que quieren hacernos casas también. Y aparte, uno sabe, ojos vemos, mañas no sabemos, quién sabe. Eso estaba muy a gusto que no había robo ni nada, y ahora quién sabe. Gente nueva, no sabemos qué costumbres tengan. No es que discrimine, pero es que de robo ya está la gente cansada de tanto que roban por más adelante por ahí. Ya no queremos, ya estamos viejos y no queremos estar batallando también con gente que no sabemos qué costumbres tengan. Y va a ser mucho tráfico para esa callecita, no creo que vaya a servir mucho el que quieran hacer casas ahí. Gracias.
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 Go ahead, Mr. Estrada.
I have a couple questions for the applicant. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, sir.
My comment was, when Mr. Escobar had said that it would be so easily to move away from that property if you do not agree to grant him the zoning change to an R2 and leave it as an R1, right? He's fine with that. So what happens now if you approve the zoning change to an R2 and Mr. Escobar decides to still leave? Now, it's already been zoned to an R2 for a new developer to come in where you can do the medium density houses of 75 houses per acre. So you're looking at, or 15 houses per acre, sorry, 75 houses for that whole lot, okay? I didn't like that answer. If you're here to develop, whether you get an R2 or an R1 to make the city of Socorro better, like you said, he's not from here. Doesn't matter if he chooses to stay here if it's an R1. He's not going to. He already told you that. You're right. The land is full of weeds. I don't own that property. The property that is not unfenced on the back of my part, the 1 acre that's back there, guess what? It's clean. I go out there every year, twice a year, and clean it. Because I don't want to have anybody go out there and dump their trash on my property. Even though I haven't developed it, even though I haven't fenced it in, it's mine, and I take care of it. You know, so it's just upsetting, like I said, somebody who's not from Socorro, who's so willing to leave if he doesn't get the proposed changes he wants. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Estrada, go ahead. If there's anybody else, Mr. Escobar, like anything to say? Do we have to close public hearing?
I think he's gonna talk.
Yeah, you can keep it open unless you're just having questions of the applicant, then you can close it and then ask your questions if that's what you want to do.
Go ahead and close if you like.
I'd like to close public hearing at 6:36. Go ahead, Mr. Estrada.
Okay, I have a question for the applicant. You haven't closed on this property yet, correct? Just
No, sir.
you haven't closed. Okay, are you contingent on rezoning
Yes, sir.
prior to closing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The question I have is regarding infrastructure to the existing streets pertaining to services. So, for example, sewer line and gas line. Do you have services at the property line already, or do you need to do any type of infrastructure work to the existing feeder streets?
The street that goes into the property is called Urulaga, and they have all the utilities out at the site.
And the service lines there are enough to accommodate
Yes, sir.
any type of lot?
Yes,
Okay. My other question, if this was to remain in R1, is there any situation where a variance wouldn't be required, the setback variance, other than having 1 acre parcels? Because I'm thinking,
The problem if you leave it R1 and you have to put the road in, that would make the lots extremely wide. So frontage, I mean, somebody can come in and do it if that's their desire. It's just not economically feasible for us.
so I'm looking
And
at.
I don't think at this point, I'm sorry, I don't think at this point, like I said, what we're trying to do is trying to do a little mixed use with smaller homes, medium homes, and big houses. So it's a nice mix of a nice neighborhood. That's all we're trying to do.
I'm looking at the lots and I'm thinking, okay, if this was, if, let's say it doesn't rezone, let's say you walk away and there's another applicant that comes in and stays at R1, I don't see any way for there not to be a variance on any type of lots unless they're 1 acre parcels or there's only 5 lots or something like that.
Well, if you
Because
look,
of the width that's on here,
if you look at the
right?
ponding
Is that
area,
correct?
if you look at the ponding area, you wouldn't need a ponding area if you go R1. So that would be a lot. These two would be a lot. And I don't think they can make the setbacks.
Because you still have a street going along
You
the
still have to
length,
have a
and you
street.
still have a front and a rear setback, and you still need that street on there.
Yes, sir.
So I'm thinking that there'd still be a variance that would be needed.
Or nobody's gonna build it out.
Okay.
So you're gonna have an empty lot unless there's some neighbors that have big lots, they buy it and just make it bigger. There's somebody that has I believe it's an old farmhouse or barn that they tore down, right, in front. I don't know the name of it. Well, there's a couple other properties, and we talked to the owners to see if we could, make everything more regular, but nobody else wanted to sell.
You tried purchasing additional land, I
We
guess,
tried,
to
yes,
expand
sir.
the parcel. Okay, another question. Have you considered, or would you consider making this an adult-only community? Going along the lines of what you said earlier, that a lot of people are looking to downsize smaller homes.
I never thought about doing that, and I don't know if it would be economically. There have to be studies made and see how many people are wanting to do that.
I'm thinking there's a huge need, right? And same number of lots, same size home.
No, I understand.
But adult only.
55 and over or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't manage that type of property, so I
Okay.
can't go in there.
Okay. I have a comment this is a very irregular parcel, and I think the only other options on here are large parcels, like 1 acre lots, for example. Does this lot currently have water irrigation rights, this parcel?
Well, nobody's been farming it. I don't know. Does it have?
It does have existing water rights?
Probably still hasn't.
So I see options here of either large parcels, 1 acre parcels, with water rights and so on, and building very large homes. I think there's a big market for that. But the other option I see is on a lot that's irregular like this is apartments, which is completely a different zone. I know you're not asking for any of that, but I want to make that comment to the public and to the rest of the commissioners that
But even if you do large lots, you still have to provide access. So if you provide a road in, it's going to split up the property. It's still going to cut it out. So it'd be difficult to get very regular lots because the property doesn't lend itself to it. And I would want to say one more thing. We're not going out Carreta. This is a crash gate. The little gate there is a crash gate only for emergencies. So the out Urulaga, which is a city street, and by no means did I try to insult the neighborhood. I like the neighborhood. If not, I wouldn't go in there to try to build something nice. But I will say that this is not being farmed. It's not being used. It's basically a burden on the city. And this way, at least you put it on the tax rolls, and maybe you can use that money to improve the neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. No, I don't have any other questions.
If there's no other questions, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Would that be with staff recommendation?
With staff recommendations, yes.
I'll second that motion.
Do I have a motion to approve with conditions? With staff recommendation? From Mr. Arroyo, second by Mr. Cisneros. Now I would like to take your votes. Andrew Arroyos,
Yes, ma'am.
Enrique Cisneros,
Yes, ma'am.
Ernesto Gomez,
No.
David Estrada,
Yes.
Arturo Lafuente,
No.
Julie Dominguez,
Yes.
Miriam Cruz,
No.
4-3, passes.
motion carried. And moving on to item number 7, consider and take action on the proposal approval of a replat as per section 38-10 of the City of Socorro Municipal Code. Also requesting a variance on the rear yard setback to 20. Property is located at 601 Zebu Road, being all of Lot 10, Block 10, Socorro Mission Subdivision Unit 1, Socorro, Texas. Carlos?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, Carlos Ganar once again. The applicant is not here. This is the one that we deleted last time that we met. I'm happy to give you the presentation. You all could decide whether you want to, after the presentation, if you want to vote or not, or delete it, but it's up to you. So we could either delete it and when the applicant is here, or I could give you the presentation and you guys could decide if it's quote unquote not a big deal or you still need more information.
Can we just make a motion to, I guess, delay, postpone it?
Sure.
Till the applicant comes?
Entirely up to you. Why don't we just make a motion to delete it?
Okay, I'm
Well-
fine with that.
Will the applicant have to pay again?
No, it's just the deletion for the agenda item. Yes, sir.
Is there a reason he's not here today?
Mr. Gomez, I think it's, there was COVID in his office. I think it's the holidays. I think, people check out a little bit, right? Okay.
Okay. So I make a motion to, I guess, delete.
Do I have a
Second.
motion? Do I have a second? I have a motion to delete, made by Andrew Arroyo, second by Ernest Gomez. Moving on to, now I'd like to take a vote. Andrew Arroyo,
Yes, ma'am.
Enrique Cisneros,
Yes, ma'am.
Ernesto Gomez,
Yes.
David Estrada,
Yes.
Arturo Lafuente,
Yes.
Julie Dominguez,
Yes.
Miriam Cruz.
Yes.
Motion carried. Moving on to item number 8, Planning and Zoning Commissioners Report.
I have nothing to report. Anybody else?
Yeah, I really would just like to ask if Mr. Gallinat and staff could just try and get us as much of a backup that's going to be presented to us along with everything else. I do look at it before I get to the meeting, and sometimes quickly, sometimes in detail, but I think it's important for us to have that information so that we're not looking at it for the first time while we're in the meeting. Personally, I would appreciate that. And also, I think one of the things that we continue to not have that Mr. Terrazas used to do was that he would go out, well, I don't know if he would go out, but at least he would bring pictures back of the actual property, of how it looked very recently. He used to bring pictures of again, recent photos of the property, and I think that's helpful because obviously if one person is saying one thing, the other people are saying another thing, I think it's important for us to have information from, neutral party that's gonna be very clear. And so these aerial photos and Google photos can only help so much. And for example, even the access point that was mentioned, I think, pictures about that would have just been a lot more clear about what we're looking at and what we're imagining. Since I do know the area, at least for the one of the items, and so, actually both items. But I think for everyone's sake, and because I haven't been there, at least in the past couple of months, I haven't passed by there, maybe things change. So I think it would be helpful to also get current photos of the area. Those are just my comments for on my side.
Thank you. moving on to item number 9, Planning and Zoning Department report.
Chair and Commissioners, that's, this is the end of 2021. Just wanted to wish you all a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Hope you all get some rest with you and your families. The City of Socorro had a nice luncheon for the staff and people from that serve on the commission. So we just wanted to thank you for your service. They passed out these really nice goodie bags with some gifts. Wanted to make sure that you all got one. Again, very appreciative of your service. Recognize it's not easy. But we are, as I mentioned earlier, myself and my staff, we're here to serve. We're here to be of service to the people of Socorro. And so whatever we can do in 2022 to facilitate this meeting or your decision process, Mrs. Cruz had some great points of pictures and information. Happy to provide that. We're here to serve at your will. And so just wanted to say thank you. Wanted to wish you a Merry Christmas. Hope you have a restful holiday. And with that, we'll see you back in 2022.
Thank you so much.
January
for all
4th.
you do, too.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Really
you
appreciate it.
also for your
So
outstanding
we do plan on having a meeting on January 4th. It's scheduled. We will have some items, so we'll put the agenda next week before we head for New Year's. We'll put the agenda together. But we'll see you guys here on January 4th, 2022. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Item number,
I would make a motion to adjourn.
A second. David.
I have a motion made by Cisneros, a second by Mr. Estrada to adjourn at 6:50. Now I will call out the members. Andrew Arroyo,
Yes, ma'am.
Enrique Cisneros,
Yes, ma'am.
Ernesto Gomez,
Yes.
David Estrada,
Yes.
Arturo Lafuente,
Yes.
Julie Dominguez,
Yes, ma'am.
Miriam Cruz.
Yes.
Motion carried. Meeting adjourned at 6:50. Thank you.